3, 2, 1. Boys and girls, it seems James de Nicolantonio has been a little bit upset by being called out on his absolute ridiculous nonsense yesterday, and he's made a little video response, which of course requires a response to the response. So let's hear what James had to say in response to my video and correct it where he makes yet more errors, shall we? I haven't watched this through, by the way. This is off the cuff. First time I'm watching it, so this will be fun. Here we go. First thing I will say before he even starts speaking is he's written there in the platform formerly known as Twitter that he, meaning myself, I guess, even though he's talking to a small yellow teddy bear, not me, and he's not talking to that teddy bear because he's got that teddy bear blocked, by the way, because he's so very, very brave, is brave, Sir James. But that all said, and that all to the side, he's saying I was literally incorrect. Well, number one, the word literally adds nothing and no weight to the sentence whatsoever. And it's false because actually the one who's incorrect here, James, is yourself. Still, whether you like that or not, in fact. Okay, let's hear it.
Okay, so this is my response to Bart K's video that he made about my video, basically trying to say that what I was saying was incorrect.
No, I wasn't trying to say that, James. I was saying that outright. What you said was incorrect on a number of counts, and I pointed to the exact underpinning first principles in science that establishes that fact, literally. Actually, James, what's next?
I've listened to what he's had to say.
Clearly not very well, or you haven't understood it, or it doesn't behoove you to understand it, or in fact your ego's in the way.
And
because what you're actually going to do, I would suspect, James, is misquote me, strawman me, and pretend like you're the authority in this field when you are not, son.
I'm going to now present evidence showing...
No, you're not, son. You're going to attempt to do so, and I'm going to laugh in your face. Let's hear it.
What I said is correct, and
no, it isn't, James, still.
He is saying is incorrect.
No, it isn't, James, still.
Okay.
No, it's not okay, James, still.
Bart's first claim is that the body maintains pH in a tight range.
That's not a claim, it's a fact. We're done with that one. What's next?
Okay, and hence dietary intakes have no harmful effect.
I said nothing that any normal human being is going to do in any given day at any given time with any normal or relatively normal food intake is going to have any impact to speak of whatsoever because the homeostatic mechanisms will not allow pH derangement. Ergo, it's not an issue.
Okay, my response is as though just because the body can maintain homeostasis doesn't mean that that's optimal, nor that there's not harmful effects, which there are.
No, there aren't, James, still.
But even though the body is able to maintain a tight pH range...
Most of the homeostasis around pH, James, is actually nothing to do with the body whatsoever. In fact, a lot of it is physiochemical in nature. It derives from the known laws of physics, first principles. The human body actually just does a few things to tighten that range still further, actually. For example, the activities of the lungs, the kidneys, your genes in terms of the synthesis of various proteins, metabolic process, the breakdown of various proteins, etc., etc. But most of the pH control is inherent.
It doesn't maintain it forever.
That's right. And when it fails to maintain the homeostasis to within the physiological range, then you are critically ill and nigh unto death. And usually what occurs soon thereafter is death. Good.
Let me show you two references that just prove that he's incorrect.
No reference proves anything, James. See, you claim to be a scientist. And yet now you're saying, I'm going to tap two references, and those two references will prove my point. No, they fucking won't, James. No reference will prove your point. And if you're not going to bring those references up on the screen so that we can have a look at those references and analyze their faults and foibles, then what you're actually doing is you're just being a wanker. You're being a Mike the Vegan style, let's just plaster up references for the sake of it wanker. That's not being a scientist. Okay, it's pathetic, it's childlike, and it will not prove your point. But let's hear it.
These two references show that literally as we age...
Literally, once again, no, it doesn't literally show anything.
our blood becomes more acidic?
To what degree, James? Give us some numbers. No?
In other words, our hydrogen ions in our blood.
Nobody said, and I never said, that your pH does not vary. It absolutely does, within a physiological range maintained both by the physiological equilibria involved, the physical chemical equilibria, physics, and some of the actions of some of the various aspects of your biological function, like the lungs and such that I was talking about just before. Absolutely, the pH ranges, yes. Nobody said otherwise.
Blood go up and bicarbonate goes down as we age. He literally said that doesn't happen.
No, I didn't, James. At any time, you lying little cunt. No, you pathetic little straw manner. I did not say anything remotely similar to that at any time, ever.
That the body maintains a tight pH.
It does, yes, that is correct. That does not mean it does not vary at all. It does.
Okay, well, these two papers are showing that what you just said is incorrect.
Well, I didn't say that, James. It's a straw man. So there is two references that are now a complete and utter waste of all of our time, only to subserve your ridiculous straw man, you pathetic little boy. What's next?
The effect of age on blood acid-base composition in adult humans and age in systemic acid-base equilibrium analysis of published data clearly show that as we age, the level of hydrogen ions in our blood, aka acid, goes
on average. Yes. What's the signal to noise ratio around that, James? What was the magnitude of the change? Let's have a look at the data rather than just saying, well, here's some references that prove you wrong, because they fucking don't, James. Absolutely fucking pathetic. Try again, son.
Up and bicarbonate, our base goes down. Incorrect statements from Bart.
No. Straw man from James de Nicolantonio. I never said that your pH or your bicarbonate concentration or any of these other things do not change. Never said that. False.
Now, to easily disprove his other claim,
go on then,
that the homeostatic mechanisms that control acid-base balance, there are no harms.
Who said that? Again, not me.
From doing so, okay? Beautiful review paper by Robert Alpern.
Well, beautiful is not a scientific word, James. Science is litigated empirically by competent scientists who can read a paper and determine whether the methodology of that paper is apt to support any claims it might make. And also, they are able to analyze the statistics in those papers to see whether those papers do, in fact, say what the authors purport they say. Let's hear it, though.
It's literally entitled...
Literally again. No, it's literally, this paper is literally entitled such and such. So what? The title of a paper doesn't prove anything about what the paper says, establishes, or is competent to do or otherwise at all. Example, there's a paper by the European Consensus Panel on atherosclerotic disease development suggesting that LDL is causal in heart disease. The paper is completely unable to establish that point. So who cares what the title of a paper might be?
And this is rather ironic.
What's ironic, James, is you calling yourself a scientist, because you're nothing of the sort. You are a pathetic little boy who is upset because someone with vastly more knowledge on this topic than you has called you out on your nonsense, and that's damaging to your ego. Sorry about that.
Spectrum of chronic metabolic acidosis, homeostatic mechanisms produce significant morbidity.
Well, that's an opinion, isn't it? Show me an experimental study where this has been established, James. There isn't one. The first thing you learn in the first half an hour of your first undergraduate degree, James, is that associations cannot inform on causality. You can't even get that right, for God's sake. What makes anybody think that you could get acid-base balance? A very complex topic, correct? If you can't understand that association doesn't establish causality. Are we done here, boys and girls? People that listen to James should be done listening to James by now. But we'll spell it out.
In other words, the title of this review paper is literally saying...
Literally again. And who cares what the title says? That has nothing to do with what the paper says. It's actually an opinion piece. Review article.
Homeostatic mechanisms of chronic metabolic acidosis are harmful.
Well, that's an opinion. Show me an experiment that establishes that posit, James. There isn't one.
I'll read you the quotes of the study.
Okay, great. Quotes of an opinion piece. Let's hear them.
Because the body's homeostatic response to these pathological processes.
What pathological processes, James? There aren't any still.
Is efficient, the serum bicarb and blood pH are frequently maintained within the quote-unquote normal range.
Yes, not frequently, entirely, in fact, until you're about to die, as I said quite correctly yesterday.
Nevertheless, these homeostatic responses engender pathologic consequences.
So that's somebody's opinion. What are they, and how are they established experimentally, James? Good luck finding me an experiment on humans.
Did you hear that, Bart?
I did hear it, and I've responded quite accurately and quite appropriately. You silly little boy. What's next?
The homeostatic responses to acid-base balance engender pathologic consequences.
Somebody's opinion. Okay, no, they don't, in fact. As I quite correctly said yesterday, and as I'm repeating again today, no, they don't.
Such as nephrolithiasis.
I'm not suffering from that, and I eat nothing but meat just about, James. Nearly 10 years. Explain that.
Which is kidney stone formation.
Well, I don't have those, so there goes that idea.
Bone demineralization.
No, my bone mineral density is still as high as it's ever been at my age, 50 plus. More than it was when I was as active and athletic as a young man, in fact, because my health behavior is better now than it was then, in fact. All right, so no.
Muscle protein breakdown.
Well, no, James, not at all. Let's have a look at you in a picture taken in the thumbnail of the video that I posted yesterday. An image taken, I suspect, only a few years ago. And have a look at you now, son.
In renal growth. Renal growth or hypertrophy happens because guess what happens when you actually have to excrete a lot of acid, Bart?
Well, there's still no acid being excreted, James. That's still a false claim. You are talking about ions, not acid. Still. Okay, ions are not acid. Acid is not ions. Anions are not acids. Hydronium ions are not acids. Acids are acids. You are not excreting acids. Neither are you creating acids by eating food. Buff head.
Your GFR has to go up. So
yes. So it's designed to do that. That's one of the homeostatic mechanisms, you buff head.
You're hyper-filtering all that acid.
No, it's still not acid, idiot.
Which is stressful on the kidney.
No, it isn't. Still, it's designed to do that. That's its role.
They then go on to say that even though these harmful effects are occurring, you wouldn't even know.
Well, they're not happening though, James. So someone's opinion that they're happening bears no weight whatsoever. None at all.
It because the bicarb can be normal. Okay.
No, it's not okay, James. It's not okay for you to claim to be a competent scientist. You're nothing of the sort. You're a little boy in short pants with an ego problem. What's next?
So even in patients with a normal serum bicarb and blood pH, it is important to treat the acid load.
Which does not exist. This is a construct, James. It is not acid. You are talking about ions still. And the kidneys are absolutely designed to filter ions in and or out of the blood pool according to requirements at that time. Still not a stress, still not a pathology, still not a problem. Fuck right off. What's next?
And prevent pathologic homeostatic responses.
There is, okay, so just constructs, ideas, opinions, but not science, not experimental science, not first principles. So this is ideology and theology. By the way, let's all be very clear here. James sells a bunch of supplements designed to solve this non-existent problem that he's making up here. That's what's behind this, actually, as well as his ego problem. So let's all understand that clearly. That is what's going on here. Okay, what I'm actually doing, not only am I taking a shot at the boy's ego, which is quite indicated and correct for me to do so, I'm also taking a shot at what this boy is doing for a living because it's dishonest. Okay?
Bart, did you hear what this just said?
I did hear what that just said, and it has absolutely no impact or bearing on anything whatsoever. It is not empirical, scientific proof of anything at all. It's somebody's opinion, and it's somebody's ridiculous opinion. that got past 2 peer reviewers. Well, so what? Idiot.
You need to treat the acid load despite a normal...
There is still no acid load, James. Still. What acid are you referring to? Give me the name of an acid, you top scientist, you absolutely, literally top scientist. Tell me which acid you're referring to. Shall we wait? I don't think we will wait because there isn't an acid here that's being excreted by the kidneys. No.
Serum bicarb and blood pH to prevent pathologic homeostasis responses.
You've said that and it still has no weight. It's still somebody's opinion.
In other words, Bart, don't you realize that homeostatic responses are sometimes pathological?
Some of them sometimes are, yes. This one isn't.
Think, for example, when we consume a low amount of water, what happens in the kidneys?
That's completely irrelevant to this situation. We are talking about whether or not the kidneys are adequately designed and perfectly competent to filter in ions and filter out ions as is needed at the time, at any time when a person is in even relatively decent kidney health, James. Still.
There's pathological consequences like a skyrocketing of vasopressin, or when we don't...
Well, so what? Nobody is suggesting that being heavily dehydrated is a good thing. I never said that. This is another straw man.
Enough salt.
What I said, James, is that you don't understand acid-base balance. You don't clearly even know what a fucking acid is. You do not understand aqueous pH control clearly, as I showed absolutely unequivocally yesterday in my video, which you claim to have listened to and clearly haven't. What you're actually doing is doubling down on your rancid, ridiculous, pustulous, excremental bullshit again, ignoring everything I said in my video, which absolutely establishes from first principles and from the laws of physics as we understand them, that you are in fact in error here, James. That's what's going on here. Wakey, wakey, smell the bakey.
We skyrocket aldosterone and renin. Those are homeostatic responses, Bart.
Yeah, but they're not pH homeostasis responses, are they, James? And that's the topic of today's discussion. Quite happy to discuss fluid homeostasis with you or anything else with you live, face-to-face on camera, anytime you want to be publicly embarrassed again. That'll be fine too. But for today, we're talking about acid-base homeostasis. We're talking about acids. We're talking about ions, anions and cations. And we're talking about kidney function, lung function, and a few other bits of function that help to maintain this homeostatic situation without pathology, James. Throughout the lifespan. Goodness gracious.
But those are stiffening the arteries and they have a lot of other unintended consequences.
Nothing to do with acid-base balance still.
So just wanted to throw this quote at you from this beautiful review paper.
Yeah, again, beautiful is not a scientific, competent label for anything, James.
That even the title shows.
Again, we've dealt with how titles don't tell you anything about what the paper actually can and cannot establish. The scientist knows that, James.
How wrong your beliefs are.
No, my beliefs are not wrong, James. They are based in first principles and the laws of physics. As outlined in the paper that was on the screen for my video the entire time yesterday that you could have read by now to find out just how badly mistaken you absolutely are, James, unequivocally. But no, instead, you'd rather beat your chest and double down on your ridiculous errors again because you have an ego problem and because your financial vested interest is in defending the hill that you're stood on right now. Despite the fact that the hill is eroding from underneath you at a rate of knots. What a shame for you. What's next?
Now, let's look at an actual clinical study in humans.
Yes, an actual clinical study in humans. Good. Let's talk about this in some detail. Since you want to tap this study as proof of something, then you'll need to analyze it with us on the screen quite significantly so that we can see exactly what was done, in what way, and all of that. Are you going to do that in a 12-minute video? I don't think you are, James. Are you? So you're just being a wanker again, aren't you? You're just citation tapping without actually being able to engage with the citation you're tapping. Let's see what you say, though.
Different acid-producing diets. Okay?
No, there are no acid-producing diets still.
Okay. This is entitled Effective Diet on Plasma Acid-Base Composition in Normal Humans.
Who cares what it's entitled? That tells us nothing about what the paper actually contains in terms of evidences.
This was basically 9 chronic balance studies in 16 normal subjects.
All right, so N equals 16, is it, James? Right, so what's the statistical power of that? Did they do any power calculations? And if they didn't, you could do them, James, if you were actually a scientist, which you're clearly not. And then you could tell us what the statistical power of this is. Because I would suggest to you that N equals 16 isn't really particularly powerful, probably, depending on the size of the signal that is generated in this study as compared to its noise ratio. Let's see, what were the outcome variables even, James?
Okay, who ranged from 22 to 44 years old.
So what?
Diets were given with 3 different potential renal acid loads.
No, well, there are no diets that provide renal acid load. Renal acid load, James, is still a construct. Which acid are you talking about? Which acid, James?
Essentially, there was a low acid producing diet, a medium one, and a high.
No, there isn't, James. No such thing is true, in fact, from first principles. From the facts of the universe as we understand them. No acid loads are produced. No.
I'm just going to, and they only consumed these diets for 5 to 11 days. Not
right, so fuck right off then, James. 5 to 11 days. Not enough people studied for not long enough. Right, fuck off. What's next?
decades, okay?
No, it's not okay, James. You're an idiot. You're a buffoon. You're a charlatan. You're a Dunning Kruger sufferer. You've got a severe ego problem. And you're a little boy. What's next?
5 to 11 days. Literally.
You'd get on well with the Nutrivore and RV Bitterman, I'd expect. What you wouldn't do, James, is actually do well in science. But that's for another day.
Low acid diet had a lower hydrogen content in the blood than the...
Well, that's got nothing to do with acid, James. Acids do not determine the pH in the blood, as I established quite clearly from first principles yesterday. You fucking idiot. The problem here is James simply does not understand, clearly, what he's seen yesterday in my video. Or he was so angry when he was watching it that he couldn't possibly take the information in. Nonetheless, it remains true. Acids do not affect the pH in the blood in any meaningful way. The pH of the blood is tightly regulated by means of 4 control levers, as outlined very clearly yesterday. Remember?
a high acid load diet, right? 37.4 versus 38.3. So
what? 37.4 versus 38.7 fucking what? Nano equivalents of H+, it says. That's not acid, James. That's also not a huge difference because both those numbers remain within the physiological range and neither one of them causes any physiological pathology. What's next?
1.3 nanoequivalents per liter in just 5 to 11 days.
So what?
Not only that, but the bicarbonate levels were also lower as well.
So what? They are controlled via the complex equilibria, as described quite adequately yesterday.
Going from 25.4 down to 24.2 after.
So what? What is your point, James? Do you have a point? No, you are pointless.
Just a week or less than 2 weeks on a higher acid load diet. In other words,
see, the situation here, boys and girls, it's very much the pigeon in the chessboard thing. This is James strutting around like a pigeon on a chessboard, shitting on the board, knocking over all the bits, claiming victory in the chess game. No, son. No, not at all. And we're all laughing at you. Every one of us with more than 3 brain cells and an IQ over about 80. Every one of us is laughing at your expense right now, James. Carry on though, son.
Yes, you do become more acidic.
Well, depends on your definition there. If acidic refers to the effective concentration of the hydronium ion, then yes, your body does have a range that it operates perfectly happily within. It's the physiological range. It's tightly homeostatically controlled, as outlined already. There's no problem here. Still.
And you do deplete bicarbonate even after just 1 to 2 weeks of a high acid load. The authors...
You mean after 1 or 2 weeks on a certain diet, the level of bicarbonate changes according to the equilibria I've outlined yesterday, because that is the basic law of physics here. It happens that way via the capacitance of CO2 in the blood pool, which is variable according to physiochemical principles, first principles, physics. It's not a surprise. Neither is it a shock, and neither did I say it does not occur. What I said, James, is that you cannot independently moderate the bicarbonate concentration because, one, it's basically volatile, according to Le Chatelier's principle, and two, the other three control levers will push through that situation in such a way as to counteract any change that you attempt to make. Ergo, it is a dependent variable. Still, fact, physiochemical fact, whether you like that fact or not, James. You're claiming bicarbonate is useful, and you can independently moderate your bicarbonate by adding bicarbonate, which you can't do, James. Still.
Then go on to state that a persistent increase in plasma hydrogen at this level that I just quoted, 1 to 2 nanoequivalents per meter or per liter, or a reduction in plasma bicarbonate.
Well, which, James? Be clear. Which are you talking about?
Of a similar degree cannot be dismissed as pathophysiologically insignificant or...
Well, it can be because, well, is there anybody at all existing in the universe who consumes almost nothing but so-called acid-forming foods, meat, James, meat and animal fat, not plants, every day of their life and has done for a decade or so? Are there others that have done it for multiple decades as well? Yes. Are those people suffering these pathological issues that you're telling us are going to occur? No, they're not. Ergo, we're done here. And you're wrong, clearly. This theoretical problem put together by these theorists here in their opinion piece does not establish anything. This is not an experimental piece of work. Still, neither is it based in first principles or known laws of physics. Neither can it even accurately describe a spade as a spade because, James, ions are still not acids. Okay?
Benign, since the deleterious consequences of chronic metabolic acidosis remain to be completely defined.
Right, so in other words, there it is right there, James. They don't know is what they're saying there. We are speculating is that's what that says. Those authors are speculating, James. And you're putting this forward as concrete proof that my correct statements, as published already, by the way, in the literature, and as underpinned by first principles and basic physics, is somehow an error. When it isn't an error, James, I don't make errors. It's something you've yet to learn, clearly.
May not be inconsequential. And then they cite 20 references showing the inconsequential effects of metabolic acidosis.
No, they don't. Nothing of the sort. That's absolute rubbish, James. That's your take on it. And if you want to go through 20 references with me, face to face, so I can show you what's wrong with every single one of them, probably within seconds for each one, bring it on, sunshine. Any day of the week and twice on fucking Sundays. Let's go.
AKA the harms of those.
No, there are no harms still.
Indeed, the article also then says, indeed, higher net acid excretion was...
Well, that's a good reason not to read this paper at all, isn't it? Because you are not excreting acid. No, not at all.
Associated with a higher steady state value of plasma hydrogen ions.
Yep. So what?
The authors concluded this finding agrees with the hypothesis that increases in endogenous acid production within...
Well, it's still not acid production, is it? You don't produce acids. You produce ions directly. And ions are one of 4 control levers that affect the pH simultaneously, still, which you still clearly don't understand, James. Even though you say you listened to what I had to say yesterday, which clearly you did not do. What's next?
Then the normal range bar result in an increase in plasma acidity.
So what? Nobody said that doesn't happen. It remains within the physiological range, however, without any distress on the body whatsoever. And without connective tissue dissolving and bone dissolving and other pathological deleterious outcomes. Absolute fucking nonsense, James. Still.
Did you hear what they just said?
I did hear what you just said, James. I considered it very briefly because that's what I do. I consider everything that I hear, and then I've dismissed it entirely as being non-scientific, someone's opinion, and not underpinned by empirical backup of any kind. These are people that don't even know the difference between an acid and an ion, James. So why would I listen to anything they have to say on any topic? Furthermore, they have not produced any empirical evidence of pathology caused by any kind of dietary intervention of any kind whatsoever over any period of time in human beings, anywhere in the world at any time. Okay? We're done. But somehow you're not still.
In other words, your claim again is proven false.
No, it isn't, James. Every single claim made in the article, which I was talking about yesterday in my video, is correct because it has not been refuted by anybody at all. It's all based in first principles, actual physics and actual science. You're talking about and tapping several opinion pieces written by imbeciles. That's the difference here, James. Imbeciles that don't know the difference between acids and ions. Okay?
Okay.
No, it's not okay, James, that you think or believe yourself to be remotely competent in this field. You are an absolute mental midget, clearly.
We can go into why sometimes these acid in bases look normal because
there are no acids and bases that are a problem here. None at all.
Of these harmful homeostatic mechanisms, but they explain it nicely here. The normal range of plasma acidity needs to also be, other things need to be taken into account, like the plasma PCO2 will be smaller than the range defined by the observed maximal differences among these individuals.
What are you fucking even saying here, son? Do you even know what you're talking about? Well, we know you don't. What point do you think you're making here? Yes, the pH has a range within which it physically possibly can exist in a healthy human being. That level is maintained without stress, distress, undue problem, or pathology throughout the lifespan in every single living human being, right up until the point immediately before they die when it finally gives out on that. You fucking idiot. Still.
There's a restricted normal range, therefore.
Right. That's what I've just said.
To recognize metabolic acid-based disturbances that might otherwise be overlooked. Okay? If you're
no. So you can't detect a problem occurring because there is no problem with the acid-base balance. And now you've made up a hypothetical so-called pathological issue, which is being cloaked somehow by homeostasis? You fucking womble. No.
You're not basically looking at plasma PCO2. Basically, the body is trying to push out more acid. So it
No, it isn't. It's nothing to do with acid still. For fuck's sake.
Basically, through the respiratory system. And Bart had said that it doesn't matter. And I'm going to show you in some of these.
So now you're just saying that my entire argument boils down to it doesn't matter. Well, that's a ridiculous straw man. I said nothing remotely similar to that. You pathetic little boy. Face me face to face, you fucking coward. You pathetic little fucking munchkin. Face me like a man, James. Come and have a discussion with me face to face where I will show to your face how incompetent and ill-prepared for this discussion you are, because you do not understand the first principles, the physics involved here, or anything else. You have a theology and an ideology underpinned by miseducation and by your financial vested interest in that miseducation. This is common, isn't it, boys and girls? What's next?
Other slides that's incorrect as well.
In your opinion is worth exactly dick, James. You're a fucking imbecile.
Correct statement is that I had said you do not want to excrete acid. Ideally, you don't want to excrete acid out the kidneys. He said that is wrong. That's what the kidneys are supposed to do.
No, they're not, James. They excrete ions. into a fluid pool, the urine, which is then excreted. Nothing to do with acid at all, still.
Let me tell you why he's wrong.
Well, I've just told you why you're wrong. And you can't overcome that because you are wrong. This has nothing to do with acid. It's ions.
Number one, you don't want to have acidic urine because that increases the risk of kidney stones.
No, it doesn't. There are no studies that inform on risk, James. None at all. Not a single one. Show me an experimental, properly controlled study in human beings locked in laboratories for a significant period of time where kidney stones are induced this way and relieved by relieving this issue, whatever you think this issue is, on a repeat basis, reliably, and we'll have something to talk about. Until then, shut your fucking ignorant mouth, you stupid little cunt.
Because you have less citrate. You have less citrate to bind with calcium, so you have more calcium to bind with oxalate. Okay, so
your body's incapable of responding to that by producing more of what it needs or getting rid of the excess of things that it doesn't need? Oh, yes, that's right. That's what the kidneys fucking do, along with the rest of the biological system that's involved in producing these things from other things. Fuck's sake.
You get increased risk of calcium oxalate.
No studies inform on risk, still.
With a lower urinary pH.
No, false. No studies inform on risk.
More acidic urine.
No studies inform on risk, still.
Also get more uric acid kidney stone risk.
No, urate, which is not an acid, James.
When you have a more acidic urine.
No, false again.
Okay, so Bart was...
Go and look up the pK value of urate, James.
Incorrect there.
No, I'm not incorrect. Again, still.
When you have to pump out acid,
No, it's still not pumping out acid. It's still ions, which are not acid, James. Still.
That leads to hyperfiltration at the kidney level.
Hyperfiltration. What the purple fuck is that? The kidneys are supposed to filtrate. Are supposed to filtrate. That's what they do. That's their job, yes. It's quite normal.
GFR increases at first.
Yes, that's the thing about biological processes. They can be sped up or slowed down as is needed at the time. Yes.
Guess what happens when you hyperfilter on a constant basis?
Well, who does? Not me. And I eat nothing but meat, just about. Meat and fat, James. So you're wrong, still.
GFR then crashes.
No, it doesn't. My GFR is excellent, James. Still.
Eventually. Okay.
No. Still. We know of one 100% carnivore who's been doing that for 67 years, James. When is this eventual problem going to... Maggie, if you're watching, tell us about your GFR and how that's crashed and how you died 50 years ago of kidney disease or something. Oh, that's right, you didn't. Okay, shut the fuck up, James, you stupid cunt.
Okay, because hyperfiltration is stressful on the kidney to do.
No, it fucking isn't. The kidneys operate within a physiological range, which is homeostatically controlled, until they are pathological. Which, okay, well, 67 years and Maggie's kidneys are still great. I'm just on the 10-year level. Mine are fantastic. As far as I know, Sean Baker's, Dr. Chafee's, a whole bunch of other people that we know about, all fine, James. We're not all dropping dead of kidney disease. So what's your fucking problem other than ego problem?
Dump all that acid. Bart then actually said that the kidney doesn't produce ammonia.
That's right, it does not.
I'm going to show you in some slides next year.
What is the pK value of ammonia, James?
That it in fact does.
No, it in fact doesn't, still.
But regardless, producing ammonia in the...
It's ammonium, James. Ammonium, NH4+. Okay? Because of its pK value.
Kidney is also harmful.
No, it isn't.
Okay?
No, it's not okay, James.
Now, I had said that the kidneys excrete acid.
Which they don't, still. They excrete water, which contains ions. There are very few acids of any kind in the urine, and if there are acids in the urine, they would be very, very weak ones, wouldn't they? Because, well, look at the pK value situation, and that would explain that one to you. Well, it would if you understood what the pK value was, which you clearly don't, James.
Bart said that was wrong. He showed a screenshot of the kidneys excreting sodium, potassium chloride, and lactate.
No, I didn't show that at all. In fact, I said the kidneys are involved in this process, the process of maintaining the thing which is called the SID+, the strong ionic difference, which they are, And the 4 anions listed there are the 4 anions which have the most impact because they are all orders of magnitude higher in concentration than every other species in existence, such that every other species in existence is so insignificant as to make no difference to the pH whatsoever. So another straw man, another misquotation, another complete lack of understanding of the basics involved here, probably because you didn't read the paper, James, which you should have done before you opened your stupid mouth again to try and take another crack at me and fall flat on your stupid, ignorant face again. What's next?
Okay, Bart, I'm not sure if you know this, but acid is primarily excreted in the kidney as ammonium.
Well, that's not acid then, is it, James? You fucking moron. Ammonium is not an acid. Ammonium is a positively charged ion. You ridiculous buffoon. For fuck's sake. It's absolutely clear this boy has no idea about the basic chemistry involved here at all. This is a joke. This is hilarious.
And titratable acid. Hence why the urinary...
Fuck's sake. It's not an acid. Still.
pH is less when you eat a diet high in animal foods. Literally, I've done over a dozen tests of urinary pH after an animal-based meal for...
Nobody said the urinary pH doesn't change. It does, James. But ammonium is not an acid still. For fuck's sake.
Hours later, and my pH always goes down.
I've literally done more tests in laboratories than you've had hot feeds, you arrogant child. I have literally published more articles than you've had hot feeds as first author, you ridiculous child. And I've literally reviewed more articles for peer review as a sitting peer reviewer on the board of multiple journals more times than you've had hot feeds. Son. Okay, your arrogance here is frankly stunning. Your ignorance is frankly not surprising because that's par for the course, actually, these days with kids of your generation. Your ego is completely out of control here, son. You're completely incapable intellectually of even grasping the antithetical view on your ridiculous nonsense here, the one I have already presented quite clearly yesterday. Absolutely stunning, and you're a coward. You're an absolute fucking coward.
Anywhere from 5 to 6.5. In other words, it's literally more acidic.
So what? That's got nothing to do with acid. Acids don't have an effect on acidity at all. Not one jot. Ions have an effect on acidity, pH. It's one of 4 control levers still. The other 3 are still valid simultaneously at all times. It's the law of electroneutrality. It's Le Chatelier's principle in action. It's all stuff we understand from first principles, and you clearly don't, James.
Another false statement by Bart.
No, it's not a false statement. I don't make false statements, James.
Okay.
No, it's not okay, James. Strawmanning me, claiming I've said things I haven't said, and presenting the same erroneous, ridiculous, postulous garbage again, that's a Peter Rogers style response. How about you read the paper from yesterday's video in full and see if you can refute a single point in that paper? Because I'll tell you what, 3 peer reviewers and a journal editor couldn't. That's why it's published, James, as a statement around what we know about first principles and the physics underpinning the situation here. Okay? But no, what you want to do instead is tap a couple of opinion pieces with inappropriate false statements in them that are not underpinned by science, first principles, or whatever, as absolute proof that I'm wrong somehow. Well, no, James, not acceptable.
Now, he had said that the body maintains a tight pH homeostasis.
Which it does.
Again, that's incorrect.
No, it isn't.
Because as we age, our blood literally becomes more acidic.
You've said that already, literally, and it really doesn't do it. Look at the fucking difference here. Look at the difference here, James. How much difference do you think that is in terms of actual concentration of hydronium ions in the aqueous pools? What do you think the difference between 7.36 and 7.42 is, buffoon? That's a tight homeostatic control. Absolutely. What's your problem? Other than ignorance, arrogance, and Dunning Kruger.
We start off with a pH in the blood of 7.42 to 7.43. That will slowly drop down to 7.36.
Yeah, so what? That's within the physiological range still.
7.35 as we get older, and you'll still be considered normal.
That's right. That's what homeostasis does. It keeps you within the range that's suitable for life.
Despite the fact that you literally have more hydrogen.
Stop saying literally, you fucking turd. You literal fucking turd. You arrogant little cunt. You ignorant little cunt. If you want to make yourself out to be a scientist, use fucking scientific terminology and use it accurately. Turd.
Hydrogen ions in the blood, and that your blood is literally more acidic.
Literally, no, it fucking isn't. To speak of at all. It's not anything of consequence. Everything in the human body is designed to work within a physiological range suitable for life. And that's well within the range. What's next?
So he's completely false here.
No, I'm not completely false. You're a complete fucking moron.
Well, he also said that, I said that animal foods.
Well, who said it, James? Was it you or me that said it? Be clear.
Foods will release acid.
Which is false. They don't.
It's hydrogen ions.
No, because hydrogen ions are not acid, James. Still. And they're hydronium ions, as you and I both know. So call a spade for fuck's sake.
He literally said that.
Stop saying literally, you fucking cunt.
That does not happen. Okay?
No, I didn't. That's another straw man. I said nothing of the sort. False. You liar.
Here's literally a screenshot of what happened.
Literally a screenshot. Good. Let's literally look at your literal screenshot. That is somebody's opinion. And doesn't actually prove anything at all. For a start here, it suggests that AASH dissociates to form SO42 minus plus 2H plus, which is false. James, that is not what occurs. That is against the laws of known physics. That is not what's going on here. Not at all. False. So there's no point looking at this any further. It is a false model. It's a construct, and it's a construct that's demonstrably false. Okay, what's next?
Happens when you consume sulfur-containing amino acids high in animal foods. They get oxidized in the liver to produce a negatively charged sulfate. Here's 2 minus, and guess what, Bart? Here is 2 protons.
Where do you think they came from, James? Where do you think they came from? And are they actually there? Or is it just that that's what it says on your little diagram here? Because the concentration of hydronium ions in an aqueous solution depends on the net concentration of all the strongly dissociated ions, not any one of them, the net of all of them, okay, plus the temperature of the solution, plus the PCO2 of the solution, plus the net concentration of negative ions expressed on the various weakly dissociated acid anions as well, James. All 4 of those things simultaneously. There may or may not be 2H plus associated with that reaction, because it may be counteracted elsewhere in another reaction, meaning that the net change in pH via the reaction you're seeing there might well be either 0 or indeed a reduction, actually, in the concentration of hydronium ions in the solution. If you understood the basic physiochemical properties of aqueous biological pH control, you'd know that. And because you don't understand those things, you don't know that. It's embarrassing for you, son. Right, what's next?
Here's your 2 hydrogen ions. Here's literally acid coming in.
No, it literally isn't. I've just explained how that's a theoretical model. It's a construct, and it is false. Okay? From first principles, known laws of physics, the law of electroneutrality, Le Chatelier's principle. Cool.
To the body because of the animal foods that you consume. Okay.
Hey, if you just got your nose out of joint because you're upset because I've had a crack at you, quite rightly, James, and it's been tough for you to take on the chin and on your ego, go and look up a bloke called Michael Lindinger. Lindinger, I think it is, from Canada. He's a bloke that really came up with this idea in the first place. I just helped formalize it a bit more. Okay? Michael Lindinger, or Lindinger, if you like. Go and look him up. Okay? And then perhaps you can make a video about how he's an idiot too. Dear idea.
So another claim that is incorrect.
No, it isn't incorrect, James. Your model that you've got on the screen here is the one that's incorrect. That model is false. It does not represent reality. It's an idea.
Bart.
You'll never make money by just working harder. Money is a reflection of your energy body.
Again, when people don't have actual images to show you biologically what is going on.
So these images are constructs put together by people who claim to understand what's going on, and often they make mistakes. As I've just outlined an example of. There's an example on the last little bit of fallacious nonsense you had on the screen there, James, where you suggested that SO42- produces protons by dissociating them. It fucking doesn't. That's not what happens. That's not how the concentration of hydronium ions in an aqueous solution is maintained. Buffoon.
Or references in humans. You could, and they just basically use profanity, which is like half of his video.
Yeah, but that's got nothing to do with the correctness of what I have to say scientifically, the validity of what I have to say scientifically, and the veracity with which I speak, James. The fact that I use naughty words has no effect on any of those things. You are still fundamentally incorrect from first principles in basic physics. You are in error, and you don't even have the good grace and the intelligence, basically, to understand why it is that you're wrong. I'm quite sure you'll sit through this video and you won't even understand what I've said, because you're actually inept, James. You don't have the equipment intellectually to show up, and you don't have the equipment physically to show up. You're a pussy. You're a coward. Front me. No? What a shock.
You basically know that this person is just not pulling out real science.
False, James. I absolutely am pulling out real science. You're pulling out false models and constructs put together by others, or yourself, I don't know, and I don't care, pointing to those and saying, look, this is proof that what I'm saying is correct. No, it isn't. That's a little picture. That's a little diagram. That does not represent reality at all. Anyone with more than 3 brain cells and an IQ over 80 knows that the thing that determines the veracity and correctness scientifically of what someone has to say is what they have to say, not whether they use words like fuck, James. Okay?
Now,
fuckwit.
Bart then says the kidneys don't form ammonia.
That's right. They don't. It's ammonium. Look at the pK value, James.
Obviously, he provides zero evidence to back it up, just like every single one of his claims. He doesn't provide.
False. I back up my claims from first principles. First principles, basic physics, is what underpins correct and valid assertion making. And I do that every time. You are welcome to go through the paper that was on the screen on my video yesterday and tell me which statement in that paper is incorrect and provide evidence that it's incorrect, which, as I say, 3 peer reviewers and an editor of that journal have already been unable to do. That's why they published it as written. Okay? What's next?
At a single ounce of clinical studies in humans, and I'm going to show you actually that the kidneys do produce.
I have undertaken more clinical studies with human beings than you've had hot feeds, James. You insolent child. You have clearly absolutely no fucking idea who it is you're arguing with. And that's the way I like it, by the way. The reason that people are unable to find a lot about my previous academic career is that's the way I like it. Right? But Anyone that listens to me for more than 5 seconds will understand which one of us is the one that understands what's going on here and which one of us is an insolent little boy. Okay?
Produce ammonia. Okay?
No, it's not okay, James. The kidneys still don't produce ammonia.
Here is the inaccurate way of what we used to think goes on in the kidneys. Here's the accurate schematic, okay?
No, it's not okay, James, and no, that's not accurate at all. Not accurate at all. Both those, left and right, they are both incorrect. In fact, and in basic physics, the physiochemical properties of pH control, concentration of hydronium ions in an aqueous solution, all of that, neither of those diagrams has this correct. Still.
Break down glutamine, we form 2-ammonium, and look, Bart.
All right, see? Ammonium. That's not ammonia, is it? That's ammonium. See that? See how that's different, James? Yeah. So you were wrong again, and you owe me another apology to go along with the half a dozen or more apologies you owe me for strawmanning me or attempting to. What's next?
What is formed right here off of ammonium? 2-ammonia.
No, it isn't, James. Absolutely false. That's under the control of the pK value. It's got nothing to do. You've shown the 2H plus coming off there. No, they don't come off there. The H plus are either pulled out of the water directly or dissolved back into the water directly. They are not independently moderatable. Still.
Ammonia is produced in the kidney.
No, it isn't. Still.
Along with, guess what? What is that, Bart?
I've just explained what that is. That is there for stoichiometric accountancy purposes. It's not a physical reality. At all. And until you understand that, this discussion would be pointless. Buffoon. Funny, isn't it, kids? It's really hilarious that this boy thinks he knows what he's talking about.
2 hydrogen ions. That is acid right there.
No, it isn't. Even if they were a literal existing thing, which they're not, they're actually an accountancy tool, that isn't acid. That would be hydronium ions, which are not acid still. So you're still wrong, even if you were right about that, which you're not. Okay?
And how are we excreting this acid?
We're not. That's not acid, and we're not excreting it. Jesus Christ. This boy is really stupid. Unbelievably stupid.
We are forming ammonium to excrete this acid.
Well, hang on a minute. So 2-ammonium breaks down to 2-ammonia plus 2H plus, you say, which is false, which then goes into the urine and becomes 2-ammonium again? No. Oh, boy. Absolutely fucking hilarious. What's next?
In other words, the urine does become more acidic, and
Nobody said it doesn't. I clearly said several times it absolutely does. And that's the way that we assist the body in maintaining the pH of the other aqueous pools like the blood, by removing things that tend to have an influence over the pH. Not that they do, because they are unable to affect the pH independently. They are part of a package of things that all act on a balance, which is all homeostatically controlled and all controlled by basic physical chemical equilibria, according to Le Chatelier's principle, which you clearly still haven't looked up either, James. Dear, oh dear.
we literally form ammonia.
Oh, shut the fuck up with the literal. Yes, we form ammonium, not ammonia, still.
In the kidney.
No, wrong.
Okay, literally.
No, not okay. False. False statement.
Proven wrong.
No. You've put a little chart up there, which is somebody's opinion, and it's false as well. And now you've said that's proof that I'm wrong. No, it fucking isn't, James. Your model here is based on a fundamental lack of understanding of the physics involved. You think those 2H plus literally exist necessarily. because they were dissociated off the ammonium, which is false. Okay?
Another statement proven false.
No, wrong, James. You haven't proven a damn thing, except that you are ignorant of the physics and chemistry involved here, and that you're also a severe Dunning Kruger sufferer, a shyster, and a boy with a severe ego problem. But we knew that already.
By Bart. Let's look at another laughable claim.
Okay, let's look at another laughable little diagram that's got errors all through it. Yes, let's do that.
Bart says that respiration doesn't deplete bicarb.
No, I didn't. I said nothing remotely similar to that. That is a lie. At no time did I say anything remotely like that. It does and can.
That you can just rebreathe in CO2 and produce bicarbonate anyway.
No, I said that the equilibrium will adjust, will react to any attempt to perturb it by tending to act in the other direction, according to Le Chatelier's principle. The exact amount of bicarbonate that will dissolve and be held in your aqueous fluid pools is dependent on the PCO2, the temperature, at least, and to some degree, the ATOT minus and the SID plus have an impact on that as well. Buffoon.
So even if, let's say, animal foods deplete bicarb, you can just reform and resynthesize it.
Well, not only can you breathe it in at the lungs, you can also produce it metabolically. There are pathways by which it can be produced. However, the amount that will be held in a fluid pool and dissolved in that fluid pool is a dependent variable based on those control levers I've spoken about already with perfectly enough detail. Plus, I've given you the reference that actually underpins that claim. I notice you're not giving us too many references, except for opinion pieces. James? Sure, my article is also an opinion piece, James. However, it's an opinion piece full of statements underpinned by first principles, laws of physics, things that we know and accept universally. Prove it wrong. Go and read the paper. Idiot.
Let's actually look at how false that claim is.
Well, let's look at a diagram which is in itself false, because again, we've got 2H plus and things written all over here, which is false. So this is a schema. This is a construct which is fundamentally not in line with the objective reality in which we find ourselves, James. So once again, you're going to fall flat on your face. You silly little boy.
Here's another schematic of the liver.
Right, a construct, which is a false construct, yes.
Here's dietary protein,
yes.
Sulfur-containing amino acid that are high in animal foods.
Yep.
You form acid.
No. False. Again, that is false. That's a construct. It's not in line with reality. Still, it's the same error as your last slide, James. No surprises.
Two hydrogen ions, right?
No, false. That's an accountancy thing. It's not a physical fact.
Right here, okay?
No, it's not okay, James. It shows your ignorance of physics. It shows your ignorance of aqueous pH control. There it is, right there, laid bare for everybody to see.
What do these two acid molecules do, Bart?
They are an accountancy technique for stoichiometric purposes. They may or may not be in the overall pool of hydronium ions in the fluid based on all those other 4 control levers at that time. They do not literally have an identity and existence of their own. They are an accountancy thing. You ignorant, ridiculous, arrogant cunt. What's next?
They deplete bicarbonate right here.
Well, an elevation in the concentration of hydronium ions will push through the series of equilibria which is the CO3 minus to HCO3 minus to H2CO3 to H2O plus CO2 equilibrium, thus leading to an evolution of CO2 gas, yes? But so fucking what? We know that. What is your point?
Okay, so you lose 2-bicarbonate.
Well, again, yes, that would be true if that was the only thing that had an effect over the bicarbonate concentration, James, which it isn't. Still, this is an accountancy thing. It does not reflect the overall equilibrium balances of any of these things because they're all fucking-pendant variables. Turd. Jesus Christ, this isn't hard.
Okay.
No, it's not okay, James. Not okay at all.
Now, you may be right that we can resynthesize.
I am absolutely right, James, on everything I have said regarding acid-base balance. Absolutely right. There's no question I'm right. And you are wrong.
Bicarb, but what do you resynthesize when you make new bicarbonate, Bart? An exact amount of acid.
No, same argument. False again. Completely fucking false. My word. If anything, attempting to change the concentration of bicarbonate upwards will, if that was successful in any degree, have the effect of lowering the pH. Raising the pH, lowering the concentration of hydronium ions in the solution. Goodness, be careful. So once again, same error, same fundamental lack of understanding of the physics and the chemistry involved. Absolutely the same error. Again, what a shock.
In other words, I don't care if you can resynthesize this, you've lost it.
Wrong. Still wrong. Completely fucking wrong. Absolute fucking nonsense. Based on a fundamental lack of understanding.
When you resynthesize it, you produce acid.
No, you fucking don't. Still.
As well.
No, wrong, James. Completely fucking wrong.
In other words, breathing out acid will deplete your bicarbonate stores because even though you're
not breathing out acid. Carbon dioxide is not fucking acid, James. For fuck's sake.
Synthesize it, you literally...
Okay, so just repeat yourself over and over again, make the same mistake over and over again, show us over and over again that you do not understand, prove yourself wrong over and over again, and prove yourself to be a ridiculous child. Again and again and again. Off you go, James. Keep going. It's great stuff.
Literally also produce acid along with the
bicarbonate. No, you literally do no such thing. False.
Carbonate that you remake.
No, false.
Okay.
No, it's not okay, James. It's absolute fucking nonsense.
So he's completely wrong.
No, I'm not, James. You are.
If you are not getting bicarbonate from your diet.
Oh, fuck off, you fucking moron. Bicarbonate concentration is a dependent variable. It is not independently moderatable by adding or by removing it from an aqueous solution. Fuck off.
And you're consuming a high animal-based diet.
Which I am, yes.
You are driving protons and acid into the body.
No, false, based on your lack of understanding of the chemistry involved.
And depleting this bicarb.
No.
Even though you can resynthesize it, you are producing more acid to do that.
No, that's false. You've said that 3 or 4 times just in this last few minutes, and it's been wrong every single time, James. Demonstrably false. Absolutely demonstrably false. Wrong.
Okay.
No, it's not fucking okay. It's wrong. Come and face me face to face and try the shit with me face to face. Pussy.
In other words, every single claim of his, I literally just proved false.
No, you literally did no such thing. You gave us your opinion based in ignorance. You gave us a false opinion based in ignorance. And you showed us some pretty little charts put together by someone who also has a false opinion about the reality in which we find ourselves, James. Pathetic. Completely inept. That's it? Good. All right. Well, there you go. James to no balls Tonio. Still ballsless. Still a gutless piece of shit. Still an arrogant child. Still wrong about acid-base balance. But, Maybe I'm wrong because I said fuck and cunt a few times. That's what makes me wrong, saying fuck and cunt. No, James. Join me next time when James will be wrong again, I would suspect, because, well, there are some bears you just don't poke. You've poked the wrong bear, James. You're out of your depth. And it's now my mission to absolutely publicly expose the level of your ineptitude, as I have done again today. See you next time, kids. Ciao for now.